Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the EuroFM celebration of the World FM Day 2026. It's an honor and a privilege to stand for you today as we celebrate World FM Day. As the chair of EuroFM, I'm inspired by the energy, passion, and dedication that each of you brings to our profession, a profession that's the backbone of every organization, every workspace, and every community we serve. So I'm very happy that we are together today. We do have a very nice program. First of all, I would like to say a special welcome to our guests, Bintang Prabowo, who will also do part of the presentation, and Catherine Brodnex, who was also is already here as a replacement for Thomas Polster. The program of this afternoon, you could see it in the invitation, but after my introduction, we'll go on with Catherine, who will tell us something about the future of work research. And first is Bintang starting with telling something about his winning abstract for the research symposium of last year in Trondheim, Norway. And after that, we'll go on further with Catherine, who will tell something about the future of work research. Today, we gather not just to celebrate, but we also reflect on the evolving landscape of facility management and the critical role we play in shaping the future. And the theme of this year's World FM Day resonates deeply with me: innovate, adapt, and thrive. These three words encapsulate the essence of what it means to be a facility management professional in 2026. There's much going on in the world. A lot of things also affect facility management. Look at the climate changes, the goal to be sustainable for the future, the wars, what's going on in the world, with having their results also on facility management. And facility management is not longer just about maintenance of building and ensuring operations run smoothly, but it's also about creating environments that inspire, support, and evaluate the people within them. And we know that generations are changing, the way of working is changing, and the world around us is also changing on an unprecedented space. You see a lot of technical advancements. What about all robots which are coming into our offices? Swifting workspace expectations, sustainability demands, and also the global challenges that are reshaping our priorities. And to stay ahead, we must commit to continuous development. And this means that we need to invest in our growth, seeking out new knowledge, but also embracing long life learning. And when it's mastering the latest smart building technologies, understanding the nuances of hybrid workspaces, or integrating circular economy principles into our operations, knowledge is the most powerful tool. And at EuroFM, we believe that sharing knowledge is not just a responsibility, it's an opportunity. And therefore, it's good to be together today, but also in our other conferences. We have our own conference at EuroFM, but also our joint collaborations with other associations. It's good to share the knowledge we have. And also by collaborating across borders, industries, and disciplines, we can unlock innovative solutions that none of us could achieve alone. I also ask you to be generous with your expertise. Mentor a colleague. Take a young professional with you when you also visit a conference anywhere in the world. Contribute to research, or simply share a lesson you learned maybe today. Together we can build a community that's stronger, smarter, and also more resilient. Innovation is very important for us. It's not a choice, it's a necessity. And the facility management of tomorrow will be defined by those who dare to challenge the status quo. From AI-driven perspective, maintenance to IoT-enabled workspaces, from net zero carbon buildings to human-centric design, I think the possibilities are endless. Last week, I also visited World Workplace Asia, in which we saw that in that part of the world, use of robots is much more implemented than, for example, here in Europe. And that's good. We need to learn from them how they use that opportunities also in the workspace. And innovation, it's not only about technology, it's also about mindset. We must cultivate a culture of curiosity, one that encourages us to experiment, who tolerates us to make failures, and to also celebrate progress. And let us think ourselves, are we open to new ideas? Are we willing to take calculated risks? Also in facility management, are we ready to lead change rather than react to it? And EuroFM is committed to fostering this spirit of innovation. Through our networks, research, and also our events, we strive to be a catalyst for transformation. But our impact is only as strong as the engagement of our members. So I challenge you, step out of your comfort zone, explore emerging trends, pilot new solutions, and the future belongs to those who are bold enough to shape it. And that's, I think, what's very important if you look to also the theme of World FM Day of 2026. It's all about implementing these new kind of ideas, which can help us to also shape the future of facility management. I think there is somebody making some noise. Yeah. In the past few years, we have thought as anything, and that's agility is also a key to survive in this fostering time. So a pandemic, but also economic fluctuations and geopolitical swifts have tested our ability to adapt, and we have risen to the occasion. But agility is not only about responding to crisis, it's about anticipating and turning challenges into opportunities. And in facility management, flexibility means designing spaces that can evolve with these needs of their users. It means implementing systems that are scalable and also future-proof. Most importantly, it means that we need to embrace a mindset of adaptability, one that sees change is not a threat, but it's a change to grow. And that's also what we see in this time, is that you can also design a building, but you know for sure that within a few years, the mindset will change and the needs people need to have to work will change. So it needs to be flexible and you need to be willing to think about what needs to be changed in the upcoming years. And as we look ahead, let us remember that our greatest strength lies in our ability to pivot. The organizations that we will thrive in 2026 are those that prioritize agility, foster resilience, and empower their people to innovate. So what can we do today to embrace this future? I think we need to share our knowledge. That's what I already said, whether through our EuroFM platforms, our own networks, but also to have a conversation with your peers. We need to embrace innovation, be curious, and innovation starts with a simple step. And the last thing is stay agile. Build flexibility into your strategies, your spaces, and your teams. The only constant factor we have is change. Be ready for it. So as we celebrate today World's FM Day, let us reaffirm our community to excellence, innovation and collaboration. The future of facility management is not something that happens to us, it's something we create together. And to everybody who attends this meeting, to all professionals, leaders and visionaries, I thank you for your dedication and thank you for your passion. And thank you for being part of this incredible journey. Together, we will continue our profession, inspire our communities, and build a world where facility management is recognized as a strategic, transformative force. It truly is. Let us make 2026 the year we innovate boldly, we adapt swiftly, and we thrive together. And I would like to say now, happy World FM Day. So with this brief introduction to our theme, I would like to ask Bintang Prabowo to introduce himself. He was the winner of the EuroFM Best Paper Research Paper Award in 2025, already said, that was presented to us in Trondheim, Norway. And his presentation was so inspiring that we thought it's good to ask him to give us a brief introduction. Bintang will present insights from the award-winning paper Community-Based Facility Management in an Urban Experienced Area. Please, Bintang, introduce yourself and tell us your story.
Thank you, Natalie. Allow me to share my presentations. Is it in full screen now?
It is.
Okay, nice. Thank you. So, thank you for having me. I was being asked to deliver this topic of community-based facility management in an urban experiment area with the case of Svartlamon for the World FM Day 2026. My name is Bintang Prabowo, and currently I am a researcher in urban heritage facility management and a postdoc research fellow at NTNU on Department of Architecture and Technology, working on community-based facility management on 3 living labs for parks project. Our living labs are in Texas, in Port Arthur, in Colombia, in La Iguana, and in Indonesia, in Indramayu, West Java. Prior to coming here to Norway, I was a university lecturer, mostly in architectural conservations and urban design at Undip. I am also a certified and registered architect, knowledge by the Indonesian Board of Architects. Mainly, I was involved with Alenka. I'm sure most of you are familiar with her. We tried to establish our little group called the Urban FM Lab at NTNU to push forward in expanding the building level facility management into urban scale facility management. We work together with several lovely colleagues. Each of us plays our own expertise to contribute on this development of urban scale facility management. My involvement in Svartlamon has been going on for years now. To be precise, after COVID, so 2023, as part of my involvement in several courses, leading some master students working on some cases in this particular area in Trondheim, Norway, especially during my involvement as an ambassador to bridge the EU-funded tourism project called Plus Change with this Svartlamon communities in Trondheim. So we consider that community-based facility management as an emerging approach that would like to try to reposition FM beyond its technical service provisions and cost efficiency towards a more inclusive, participatory, and socially embedded model. Because as being emphasized by Kate Alexander and Martin Brown, the community-based facility management, to be particular, emphasize community ownership and stakeholder collaborations. So he defined community-based facility management as the processes by which all the stakeholders in a community work together to plan, deliver, and maintain an enabling environment within which the local economy can prosper, the quality services can be delivered, and yet the natural resources still being protected. Most of the time, community-based facility management is going to be nested within the framework of urban scale facility management. In short, we define urban facility management or urban scale facility management as an applications of FM principles at district, urban, or city scale, coordinating the planning, operations, and the maintenance of urban assets and services through multi-actor governance. This cute triangular area is the area of Svartlamon. We have one more building as a sister building, but we are not going to consider it here. And this area of Svartlamon is the Norwegian's first urban ecological experimental area with 32 buildings and around 240 residents up to now. So Svart in Norwegian means black, and Lamon is the shortage of the nearby area called Ladimon. So this area is called the Svartlamon. So the black area somewhere near the Ladimon district. As you can see, this small area is being pinned by much more developed areas in the surroundings, and it is easily tempted to just demolish this area and then build nicer and more expensive apartments and shopping malls and cafes, but yet this area is still being organized and operated with the different principles compared to the area surrounding it. So it is going to be the area with sustainable environmental solutions. It has flat structures, transparent economy. Those the consequences is going to be a little bit lower standards in a way, and to some degrees it has affordable rental compared to the Trondheim rental price. So the people of Svartlamon define the area as unity, creativity, counterculture, dugnad, participations, inclusions, community, ecology, art, culture, family, friendship, music, tolerance, festival, and in short, Svartlamon is freedom. So even you are going to be allowed to see these chickens roaming around the neighborhood, and goose or ducks, cats and rabbits, why not? And of course, the freedom to express the true feelings and true expressions of the people of Svartlamon. Svartlamon, in a way, most of the time was being considered similar with the other anarchist communities in Scandinavia. The one that is also famous is in Freetown, Christiania in Copenhagen. This also operates in a similar system of partial self-management. So it has organized by some committee composed of representatives from the resident itself and some elected municipal officials. But it doesn't mean that you are allowed to isolate yourself here or not contributing something, because if you are one of the people in Svartlamon, you are obliged to be involved in the community. I cannot find another wordings for dugnad in Norwegians, but I tried to, in a way, explain it that dugnad is mixed of everything. So it's an unpaid effort where some people work together in some type of, we call it work party, because it should be fun and everyone contribute in a way within the communities. So this is part of being the resident of Svartlamon. We need to be involved in the community activities. But this area is not coming as it is. It was part of long struggles since 70s, 80s, and 90s, where at some point it was being left deteriorated and planned to be demolished in a way, but the people resist, and then this struggles led to the establishment of this area as an experimental site for urban ecology in 2001. One of the milestones was when the a famous Norwegian artist, Hakon Black and Hakon Kulpak, contributed a mural at one of the building here, one of the oldest building in the Svartlamon, as a gift for the 1,000-year anniversary of Trondheim. And these activities are actually being considered as what do you call it, violations by the municipality, and they give legal notice. But then by putting this art of work, it has also consequences that destroying work of art is in a way considered as a crime as well. So this building has to be there, since now it is part of the Norwegians work of art. So this is one of the milestones when Svartlamon area finally gain its acknowledgement as an area that is being organized in a different way compared to the other part of Trondheim. So we define urban experiment area as a real-world setting where cities purposefully test some new socio-technical solutions and ways of governing by bringing public, private, and civic actors together to co-create, implement, learn iteratively here. So this is not something that is normally being done, because it is a unique planning and a legal category. If we decided to create an urban experiment here in Trondheim, Svartlamon is a Svartlamon resident was being allowed to develop and perform the alternative forms of living, which is frugal and quite liberal in some sense. So it used to be grassroots activism, but now it has evolved into a more formalized and legal urban district where the community autonomy is protected by law and supported by the municipality, either in some type of fundings and some type of protections. But it is differently organized. The Svartlamon residents participate in collective decisions making processes regarding the land use, the building upkeeping, social activities, and some infrastructure development. So in a way, it is challenging the conventional planning paradigms by introducing some type of flexible and adaptive urbanism rooted in participatory democracy. This is one of the charts that being developed together and now is being considered as a Svartlamon model. So basically, Trondheim Kommune or Trondheim municipality own the lands, and it leases the land to an organization called Svartlamon Boligstiftelse or Svartlamon Housing Associations here. These associations led by some components from Trondheim Kommune and representatives of the people, the Svartlamon residents associations on the right side here. So Svartlamon housing associations also becoming the bridge between the financial institutions in funding some projects and properties inside the Svartlamon, because in a way, some of the properties are not standard properties that shouldn't be eligible to be funded by legal institutions. So Svartlamon Boligstiftelse act as the responsible institutions in terms of paying back the loan. Svartlamon Residents Associations of Svartlamon Beboervereniging consisted of all dwellers and all people who actually lives in Svartlamon. There are 5 neighborhoods within Svartlamon, and each neighborhood they have their own neighborhood meetings that meets regularly. But then once a month, there is a meeting that is called the residents meeting, where all of the neighborhood, which means all of the people live in Svartlamon or their representative, meeting regularly, monthly, to discuss things that is going on and to agree upon some things that is being independent organized. So everything happened in Svartlamon being decided by Svartlamon, including within the next case, within Svartlamon of one of the neighborhood, we call it inviting the self-builders, which are all of these carpenters working together with some architects and students from NTNU. The project is being called the 5 self-built houses. So the idea is that Svartlamon invited potential skillful carpenters and builders to become part of the Svartlamon area, where in the future they can also contribute their skills to do the maintenance and upkeeping of the other buildings and other neighborhoods within Svartlamon area. This 5 self-built experimental houses in Svartlamon were being developed between 2010 and 2017 through the participatory process. One of the architects are actually NTNU student that now founded the Noisom Architecture they are the one who co-design and build together with the carpenters and the people of Svartlamon, this 5 self-built houses project. So initially, this is a response to the issues of affordability, sustainability, and the freedom of expressions in architectural way. But then it was supported by the local policy instruments and the funding frameworks, which enabled this project to be funded by legal institutions, which in a normal settings will not be able to be conducted in the context of Norwegians funding policy. So started with some sketches, and later some all the students developed the SketchUp model of it, and we gathered and invited some potential carpenters, and the selected one, the 5 selected carpenters, finally gathered and briefly explain and have a discussions with the architects to how to build the house, and they together with the in a collaborative way they built the buildings, including the interior, and they even started with the simple models made of carton. We used one, and together with the people and their family, they built these 5 unique houses where you can find it in the central part of Svartlamon if you got the chance to visit Trondheim. So in terms of community based facility management, co-creations, and placemaking, this 5 self-built houses somehow illustrate the principles of community-based facility management, which are the first one that we identify is the shared responsibility for infrastructures, maintenance, and long-term upkeeping. And then we have the resident-led decisions making with the constructions and even the post-occupancy management. And the third one, the placemaking through everyday social practices, material reuse, and collective care of common space. They are so very proud of this co-creation process, because they are not just only designing, but also managing the open space where the boundaries between user, designer, and managers are intentionally blurred. So in this sense, they are not just buildings, they are platforms for social interactions, experimentations, and resilience. This gentleman is one of the carpenters that we invited, and this one is when the first stone was being placed into the part of the foundations in 2015. Our study identified 4 results and findings mainly. The first one is the grassroots governance instead of top-down governance, which is horizontal and consensus-based decisions, and the fact that they have regular meetings and task groups, and strong ownerships and responsibility amongst the dwellers. So this is a bit contrast to hierarchical management models, because the co-creations of governance structures are more flexible and more fluid, and it's become part of the everyday social lives. So in a way, we argue that this one is similar with Kate Alexander and Martin Brown's framing of community-based facility management as a vehicle for social inclusions. So facility-related decisions is not just technical task, but also a chance for us to have a democratic engagement in civic learning. For us, the FMers, this is a shift from service provisions to social co-productions. Also, we can call it as a shift or move from managing for people into managing with people. This is one of the regular meeting. This is on the neighborhood of the 5 self-built houses, where the resident, the what do you call it, the moderator or the leader of the meetings is not being defined until each meeting. So they decided who's got to lead this kind of meeting. The second result of our studies is that we identify some type of collective maintenance on the area with task sharing based on each individual skills and availability. They also share tools, they do small repair routines, and they have seasonal care, especially in between the start of every season, which resulted in sustained building integrity over a decade right now in 2026. So for us, this informal divisions of labor and the mutual care system in this project challenge that facility maintenance, the notion that facility maintenance requires rigid protocols and top-down oversight, because it is very fluid and very democratic, and sometimes we can argue that it has a trial and error part on it. We as FMers, conventional FMers, might think that this is unsustainable, as a bit dangerous and fragile, but I must admit that they have been proven resilient over time. It's been more than 10 years now. Maybe it's because the strong community ownerships and the localized knowledge. So most of the maintenance is being done by the people inside Svartlamon instead of being outsourced. We also notice that this is not a perfect solutions. We also concerned about the continuity, the accountability, and transfers of responsibility when the residents change over time, because the compositions of the people change over time, and maybe at some times they are lacking of people who are expert in certain things. This is part of the material that requires a certain skill in doing so. This is the burning of the part of planks, or what do you call it, the wooden materials to be preserved is being conducted outside the Svartlamon area, because due to the fire hazard, and it requires some skill to burn it, not to burn it too long that it's becoming a shackle, but not to put the fire off too early that it is not affecting anything. So it requires some skills, which might be at some period of time will be gone. So this is part of the project. Results number 3, the social cohesion and belonging. So we noticed that the co-buildings build bonds and trust among the people. Then they had the shared rituals, the gardening, the meals, some events, and they actually attach to the place that support the everyday maintenance and upkeeping. So one of the impact of community-based facility management for this area that we studied is its capacity to strengthen the social cohesion and sense of belonging. We asked people why they are so enthusiastic, and they mentioned things like because we are actually built this building. So then in terms of facility management, this is beyond operational efficiency, because the main point is not being efficient. One of the main point is social sustainability. This is part of the group that I actually joined. This is called Urban Scatter Trondheim, and this lovely lady is one of my colleagues who live inside this building. The last result is the navigating regulations. We noticed that there are tensions with codes, standards, and permits, and they are somehow negotiated the flexibility via the status of being experiment area. And yes, they have internal disagreements in a way. So there are two major tensions. The first one is with the regulatory frameworks, and the second one is with the internal amongst them. The internal was being resolved informally with the majority decisions, and the external was being solved using their status as experimental area with special exemption. As you can see, in terms of energy efficiency, for example, not much of the buildings are meeting the new standard, the new European standard and Norwegian standard in terms of energy efficiency, but yet they are also using reused materials in building. So that's a part of how they contribute to recycling. I will not go deeper. This is just, the table of conclusions to make it easier. Where we captured several quotes. One of them is just they mentioned that they're not just tenant, they're not just live on the place. They say that they run the place together. This is not management from above. This is their hands and their times. To conclude, so using this 5 self-built houses in Svartlamon, community-based facility management is not just an alternative to our daily conventional FM, but a fundamentally different mode of urban stewardship. Due to its character on co-creation, shared responsibility, and grassroots governance. And interestingly, we find out that this is a challenge also for us, because we noticed that when residents are empowered to govern and given the authority to maintain their own environments, the outcome is extending beyond the physical maintenance to including social identity, trust, sense of belonging, and collective pride. So this is something for us as FMers to let it sink in. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Bintang, for this inspiring presentation. Well done. I don't know if there are people who have any questions, Bintang, about this presentation. Please raise your hand then. And otherwise, I do have a question, because could this Svartlamon project also work in other countries than the Nordics. Is this really the first project anywhere in the world, or can you say something about this?
We have we identify several similar projects outside Norway, especially in Germany and in Copenhagen, in Denmark. So this is not exclusive. Yes.
Yeah.
This is not an exclusive thing in Trondheim, in Norway, but yes, it helps. Yeah. The culture and the way the Scandinavian society operates is slightly unique compared to other parts of the world.
Yeah. And is there a timeline for these kind of projects? Is this built for 30 years or for 10 years, or is there an end of this project, or do we see how it will develop?
Until today, the people who live there striving and decided to, if possible, they would like to have this cute little area, not to be surrendered to the owner of the capital to build a nicer apartment, because the artist community used to live here. So whenever you see a artistic related event in Trondheim, I'm sure at least one or two of them are actually live inside this area. Now they are being given another 35 years of lease to stay on this particular area.
Well, that's nice. Good to hear. Thank you very much for this example, Bintang. I think it fits very well with the topic of World of M Day of 2026. This is a good example of what is possible in co-creating and working together, and also shaping the future. So thank you very much for sharing your knowledge of this project.
My pleasure.
Yes, and if there are not any other questions, then I would like to ask Catherine Brudnax, I hope I pronounce it well, to introduce yourself. You will replace Tamas Polster, but we're looking forward to your presentation.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Let's see. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. And how do I get it? There we go.
Yeah, super.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Brodnax, filling in for Tamas Polster. I'm an associate partner with Urbanite Advisors. And I am a career location strategist and site selector. I have 10 years of experience in the consulting world with commercial real estate firms, Cushman & Wakefield and JLL. And then I led global expansion and global location strategy at Twitter and another company called TriNet after that. And I actually wanted to start out today by talking a little bit about my experience leading global expansion and strategy at Twitter. Here's an image of one of our Twitter offices in, I believe it was in Colorado. So when I joined Twitter, I joined in late 2020. It was December of 2020. And so, as I'm sure you recall, this was really the peak of companies trying to figure out what to do with their offices, how long-term their remote work was going to be. So we decided that we were going to allow full-time remote work permanently or forever, which actually held until Elon Musk took over in, I think it was 2023 to late 2022. But we didn't want to close our offices. We wanted to keep our offices open as places for our employees to be able to come together. The problem that we found was that there was really no point to bringing people together in some of our offices because our teams had become so distributed. Everyone had moved everywhere during COVID. And so we would have 90 people associated with an office, but we would have 70 different managers of those people. Everyone was actually working on a different team. So they would come into the office, they would sit down and they would open their computers, and they would have no reason to necessarily interact with the other individuals that were coming into the office. And so that just took a long time to sort out. There were a lot of, and this was a similar experience with other companies as well, of course, to say, where are our teams now that they've become distributed? People have decided to work remotely. They've maybe moved to different cities, different countries. Where are they today? Where should they be? And then, of course, it takes a few years to shift your job postings, shift your leadership structures, really rationalize, okay, where is our company operating and why, and how do we rebuild our teams around those locations? And so what I want to talk to you today about a little bit is the results of our Future of Work Occupier Survey. This is a survey that's been done by Urbanite Advisors every year for the past 6 years, which is really fortunate because we have a good snapshot of that arc of going remote and then doing different return to office strategies over the past 6 years. And really to show the evolution of how employers have been navigating those changes. And now finally, what we'll show you today with the results is how things are now settling down a little bit to a point where companies are getting more confident with their workplace decisions, with their return to office policies. And so we'll show a little bit about how that's starting to happen in 2025 and 2026. So one of the first findings is that, of course, what you hear about in the media isn't necessarily reflective of what's happening at most companies. What you hear about in the media are on the two ends of the spectrum. Either a company is requiring everybody back to the office 5 days a week full time, or companies are staying fully remote and deciding to continue to support remote working, because those are kind of the newsworthy or the attention-getting stories. Whereas in reality, what we're finding is the vast majority are really settling somewhere in the middle. And so I'll talk to you about what that looks like. A little bit about our survey. We surveyed 150 occupiers, employing about 3.4 million people. You'll see there's a pretty wide distribution of different industries on the left, different sizes of companies in the middle, and on the right, different geographies, the majority being in Europe. Urbanite Advisors were located in Belgium and in Hungary and in France. Quite a lot of connection with the European occupier base, but then some in the US and the UK as well. And what we found is companies are really feeling confident with their hybrid work strategies. As I described earlier, there was that period of uncertainty. Where should teams be? How do we get them there? How do we rebuild our offices and our management structures to support our employees? And now we're getting to a point where things are settling down. 33% of our respondents described their hybrid work strategy as stabilized, consistent. Another 24 described it as fully integrated and embedded. And then another 22% said, okay, we're still consolidating, standardizing, but we can see where we're headed, right? And so that's a big change in terms of that confidence that we're hearing from those occupiers. As far as enforcement, there really isn't a lot of strong enforcement. So you'll see down there at the bottom, 13% say, okay, yes, we are really monitoring. And if employees aren't coming back as much as we want them to, there are going to be some consequences, right? Most firms are not doing that. Most are softly encouraging return to office a few days a week through their managers, through their policies, through incentive programs, through offering an office environment that's attractive. And then, of course, a good percentage aren't monitoring or enforcing at all. They're really just encouraging this return to office through more passive means. So what does this look like? Here you'll see this trend over time, where over at the top, in the light blue, we have the percentage of companies that allow 5 days a week remote. So that's a fully remote. And you'll see that that has pretty much stabilized around between 5 and 10%, and that's been consistent over the past few years. And that's consistent as well with what we're seeing in other surveys. Other surveys are showing similarly between 5 and 10% of companies are continuing to allow fully remote work. And then down below, you have 4 days a week remote, 3 days a week, and 2 days a week remote being the largest percentage. In 2026, we see 39 and 36% allow either 2 days or 3 days remote working. And then a smaller percentage either requiring full-time in office, that's that 5% at the bottom. And of course, that's largely going to be in areas like manufacturing or real estate or other industries where that in-office presence is, or at the facility presence is really important. But the vast majority are coming together in this 2 or 3 day a week flexible policy. I wanted to share a flashback to 2025. This is our last year's responses, not this year, because I want to illustrate a change that's happened between last year and this year. In the red line, we have this broken out now by industry. The red line shows the policy. This is how many days we're requiring you to be in the office. And the blue line is showing the actual days in the office. So just to take an example, the business services industry on average was requiring 2 days a week in office, but on average, people were coming in 1.5 days. If you look down here at real estate and construction, on average, they were requiring 2.5 days in the office, but people were coming in 2 days a week. And so there was this gap between what was expected or what was required by employers and what was actually happening on the part of the employees. And the interesting trend is that this year, that gap has closed quite a bit, or been eliminated altogether. And so this is really the key finding from our survey this year, is that employers have actually moved a little bit this way to be a little bit more flexible, and employees have moved the other way toward coming back to the office more, or coming back to the facility more. So we're seeing this coming together where employees are starting to adjust their routines, they're starting to adjust their expectations, they're starting to set their cadences with their managers and with their teams. They're coming back more, and employers are becoming more flexible, and we're seeing that gap between the expectations and the reality close. This was an interesting finding. The chart on the left, it's a little bit difficult to read, but essentially what this is saying is that regardless of what your policy was, people are coming back 2 to 3 days a week. Companies that have a 4-day-a-week policy are seeing people come back 2 to 3 days a week. You can see those bars in the gray. Companies that are requiring 1 to 2 days in the office are still seeing employees coming in 1.5, 2, or 3 days a week. So it's interesting that, regardless of this spectrum of different policies on the part of employers, there's definitely a preference for 2 to 3 days in the office per week on the part of employees. I'm going to skip a few slides here to jump down to what we call our rigidity index. This is really taking a look at companies in terms of, okay, how strict are they? How much flexibility do they allow? And so what we're seeing is, what we measure is how much employers require the number of days in the office, how much do they enforce return to office, and how flexible are they on allowing employees to work from different countries, either temporarily or permanently. And so a company that has a higher score on this workplace rigidity index, that means they're very rigid, they're very tight with their policies, they don't allow a lot of flexible work. And then if you are if you're more flexible, then you'll get a different score. But the interesting thing is the companies with the lowest scores, meaning that they're the most flexible, they're the least rigid, are business services and technology companies. That's probably what you would expect to find. They have the most remote work and flexible policies. And so those are less rigid, better for talent. And you can see that their in-office attendance is also corresponding to that, is lower. Moving up this trend line to the right and up, you'll see that consumer goods companies, industrial companies, real estate firms, and public sector employers are the least flexible and require the most in-office days. And of course, their attendance rates are reflecting that as well. Okay, I'm going to skip a few slides as well to get to the office location drivers. This was asking respondents to tell us what's most important to you when you're selecting an office location. So this is from the perspective of that real estate planner. Where do you want your office to be? What do you think is important to your employees? And I believe this has been consistent year over year. Public transit and transportation is the #1 rated driver of that office location, followed by the overall urban environment, the ability to appeal to talent, the quality of the business district being the #2, #3, and #4 factors. And I'll actually talk a little bit more about that when we get over to our office vibrancy report. Our Urbanites office vibrancy is really a proprietary index that we have developed that puts a quantitative indicator against that urban environment factor, which previously was just something that you kind of knew, you kind of felt as you were walking around a neighborhood. This allows planners and real estate executives to be able to say, okay, I have offices in 26 cities, right? I can't go look at how vibrant every single one of those locations is. We can now put that vibrancy score against that and say, hey, here's where your offices are in those vibrant locations. Here's where they're in less vibrant locations. Here's how that translates to what you're seeing in terms of your day-to-day attendance and occupancy, and then allowing those insights to help drive some decision making. So I'll get into the vibrancy side of things in just a moment. These are our questions that we asked around environmental considerations. Those environmental factors are really important to us at Urbanite Advisors. We have a philosophy of supporting a positive urban impact in all that we do. And so we split this out by region. We have the EU headquartered responses in the top row of charts and the North America headquartered responses in that second row of charts. And you'll see, of course, that EU respondents rated very highly on the importance of environmental certifications, low emission commuting, and the importance of measuring Scope 3 emissions. I was actually a little surprised about the rate of respondents in North America, that this is an important factor and it's an increasingly important factor. And so this is something that we will keep our eye on in the future as well. It's important to me. I'm glad to see it's important to real estate planners and occupiers increasingly here in North America. I'm doing my part to put the word out, but there's only so much I can do. All right. This is, let me just check this is the slide I want to focus on. This, I would imagine, is probably top of mind for you as facilities managers. These are what are the services? What's that experience in the building that matters to employees? When we get to the end, I would love your feedback, your comments, your questions on this, whether this jibes with your understanding as well. We found that for landlord-offered spaces, our respondents said that meeting and event spaces were the #1 most important thing. Those meeting and event services were really important in being valued by them in a building service. The second was the provision of flexible or co-working spaces. And the third was move-in ready or furnished spaces so that they had the ability to take additional space as needed without a lot of ramp up time if that was something that they needed. So the key here on that stack of left side things is the more that they can move some of those spaces out of their leased space in terms of like that big 30-person, 50-person, 100-person training room that they only use once a quarter, right? The more that can be a building offered amenity, that's really highly valued. Same thing with that flexible co-working spaces. We can hold 10 desks in our suite for drop-in spaces, or we can have that be a building service and amenity, and that is something that they do value quite a lot. The second column, building design, amenities and characteristics, food and beverage quality and variety, really important, followed by green spaces, terraces, rooftop, that ability to be able to get outdoors and use those spaces. And then finally, building services, the most valued was manned reception, followed by networking and events, community events, opportunities to get together, meet the other tenants, meet you all as facilities managers, and really be able to mingle and get together in that way. All right. Let me just check through. This was just about us, but I'm actually going to pivot over to our vibrancy index, and then I will open it up for questions. Let me just stop sharing while I pull up that other vibrancy report. Okay. Thank you for your patience. Let me open that now, share. Okay, so our vibrancy index really, as I mentioned, takes something that was previously intangible and makes it something that we can actually look at the data, quantify it, put it up against a portfolio's occupancy metrics, and say, yeah, here are the trends with what we're seeing as far as how a location's vibrancy is impacting the performance of an office building. So it starts by breaking down geographies into these 500-meter hexagons, quantifying all of the points of interest within each of those hexagons, classifying them and weighing them, and then building out this heat map to really reflect the vibrancy and those points of interest that are within that area. And so what it looks like, here we have our vibrancy index for New York. And so you can see here that the different neighborhoods that we're kind of able to evaluate through this vibrancy index and how that corresponds to office attendance levels. So the Soho neighborhood being 90 points in terms of vibrancy, having that higher occupancy, that bigger draw for office users to be using that space and coming in on a more regular basis. Whereas the CBD, the traditional downtown, the financial district, lower vibrancy score and correspondingly lower office occupancy. And this was pre-COVID, so keeping that in mind, but we certainly do have refreshed views and analyses for these for the present day. And so this is what it looks like. New York is a little bit turned on its side, how we normally see it, but you can see there the level of detail that we're really able to go block by block, building by building, and quantify this vibrancy and its impact on occupancy. And then, yeah, there's another case study, but I think that this is really kind of the best view. We have this for metro areas all across the world, primarily focusing on Europe and in the United States. And so this is something that we can generate on a bespoke basis. We can pull up a vibrancy map for any city and take a look at a building's vibrancy profile and also make recommendations on how to improve a vibrancy score. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about that. So that's where I'll stop, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Catherine. It's a nice story about it. But firstly, maybe are there other questions from people? Maybe for me, and I don't know if that's part of your research, but is there a big difference between America outcome and Europe?
Not really, surprisingly. In terms of those return to office trends, it seems like the 2-day, 3-day a week is pretty consistent between North America and Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was also what I was thinking. Maybe it's not, that big difference. And the other question I topped in my mind was in your office location drivers, if you look at the occupiers versus what does the employee want? Do you know anything about that? Because I think it's really a difference, maybe.
That's a great question. Yeah, we only surveyed the real estate managers, right? So it's their perceptions of what their employees want. It would be interesting to do another follow-up survey with the user, right? And I'm sure there are some out there regarding what their perceived preferences are.
Yeah. And I also saw a little bit, the same in the presentation of Bintang, is that's also in your key drivers, it's about cohesion. How do you create cohesion also at the workplace and also in where you live? So that's good to see, I think. Thank you for that insight. Yeah. Okay. Other people who have any questions about this one? No, then I think I would like to thank you for giving this presentation. I think this is two insights which can help us also to develop in our profession. And it's good to see how you also make the connection between facilities management and real estate and what we are doing for housing projects. So thank you for that, both of you. I see in the chat that's also Stanley Nya is asking the question, which is the ideal smart building technologies are delivering the best return on investment today? I don't know if this question is also related to one of the presentations, but is there anyone who can give an answer on that one or want to share something about that one?
Sure. I think I can elaborate on the return on investment for smart building technologies. And I think the best way to answer that question is to look at the Collier's Index. They have a yearly index where they try to elaborate on the cost per workstation per year. It differs across Europe, but in the Netherlands, it's around 10,000 euros per workplace per year. And then if you take that and look at sensors, for instance, over IoT, that generally costs you, let's say, 30,000, 40,000 euros for a 2,000 square meter building that includes sensors installment and the SaaS fee. And that would return into a 4 workplace optimization for you to break even. Of course, there are other technologies like Wi-Fi triangulation or Wi-Fi mapping even. And of course, the more traditional occupancy studies are done manually still. Any other smart building technologies you want to know about? Happy to take it offline, or otherwise ask a question now, and then I can elaborate further.
Well, thank you, Asa Akkerman, about it. And if Stanley, if you want to have more information, please contact Azel about it. He can help you further. So thank you for that one. Are there other questions on this one? No, I don't think so. So, well, maybe by ending these 2 presentations, the only thing I can do, I can again ask, say thank you to Bintang and Catherine for sharing your ideas and your projects. It was really good to have some insights in your projects. And thank you to all to be part of today of our session. And also would like to wish you a good luck in the upcoming year in also innovate, adapt, and thrive together on our beautiful discipline of facility management. So thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, if you have any interest in EuroFM or in our events, look at our website in which we share also, we'll also share this session so that you can also maybe later on follow what we learned today. So thank you for attending of this meeting.